Producer engineer great Val Garay looks back at his friendship and working with Randy Meisner. Of course, Val Garay's responsible for producing Betty Davis Eyes, a few albums with Kim Carnes. Along with Peter Asher, he worked with James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt. He produced Neil Diamond and a host of others. We talk about the late, great Randy Meisner with Val Garay on Rock History Music. I heard you talk in previous interviews. I'm just going to jump around with the fact that you knew Randy Meisner. I know you produced his second album, but Randy is another case where out of the blue, I think his nephew or something set me up with an interview with him in I think 1999 or something. And during the interview, you'll think this. You probably won't be surprised. In the middle of it, I guess he lived on the hills of someplace. He stopped the interview and went, "Hold on, there's a deer in my backyard." And then we talked about tomatoes for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. We talked about growing your own tomatoes. And I remember the most refreshing interview I've ever done.
Well, the Mize was an incredible guy, and we made a great record together. It had two big hits on it. It was my first real production coming out of the engineering side. My dear friend Frank Rand, who was the head of A&R for Epic on the West Coast, is the one that came to me and asked me if I would do this record. And I'm really glad that I did, because it really propelled me into the world of production, and which I love to do. And I actually started out trying to be a producer in the early 70s before I ever did any engineering. And that never really came to fruition. I did a couple of records, and it wasn't the kind of artist that I wanted to work with at the time. I wanted something bigger and better, and I wasn't an attraction, so it didn't happen. And then I got into engineering and kind of went in through the back door, because I've always been a kind of a production arranger kind of mentality. All the bands I was in, I always arranged and produced everything and put things together. And so it was a natural progression for me.
Was it you that got Randy in with Eric Kaz, the guy who co-wrote Hearts on Fire with him?
I were friends from Part Like a Wheel. That's where I met Eric. I was in a studio Sound Factory in Hollywood one day working on Heart Like a Wheel, and Eric came in to see Linda because he had a song on the record, and every album that Linda Ronstadt did had an Eric Cass song on it. She had cut Love Has No Pride, which is like a country standard now, which she did on the album before the one I did. And so Eric is an amazing writer. He's had so many great songs. And so when I started working with Randy, because Eric wrote country songs, I mean, he wrote, the biggest hit George Strait ever had, I Crossed My Heart, from the movie Pure Country. And the list goes on forever. But I just thought he'd be a great match to write with Randy, and they wrote Hearts on Fire together, which was a big hit.
Great song. By the way, I love asking producers this, because the answers are sometimes a little different. Sometimes the answers are buying more equipment, but did you ever splurge? Did you ever buy a Porsche? Did you ever live like a rock star?
I bought a Porsche. In fact, Kim dragged me over to the Porsche dealer in the Valley and made me buy one. Actually, I had a Mercedes. I had one of the first AMG Mercedes in the country, and that happened because I was in London working, and I was staying at the Montcalm Hotel, and it had a Crescent Drive parking entrance. And I saw this white Mercedes come in that was all white. Everything was white on it. The wheels were white. The chrome was white. It was just all whited out. And I ran downstairs and asked the guy, I said, what is this? Where did this come from? And he said, it's an AMG car from this company called AMG that's in Falterbach, Germany, outside of Stuttgart, where they make Mercedes. And it was a private company that just hot rodded Mercedes. Years later, Mercedes bought AMG, so now they use that all the time. But in those days, in the 80s, it was a small independent, like, aftermarket hot rod company. So I had one of those. I've had a couple Ferraris. I've had a Bentley or two. I've had I had a 57 Corvette that I did a ground up restoration that took 4 years. And I sold that to Randy Meisner.
Yeah, he told me about his car collection. He loved collecting cars.
I wish I'd never sold it, but I did.
I think he had a truck. He was redoing a truck last time I talked to him.
Remember, if you want to get updates to all our videos, you want to make sure you see all our videos, because YouTube doesn't always let you know. Even if you're a subscriber, join our mailing list at the very top. There's a link to our mailing list, and we'll only send you the videos that we release. Remember, at the very top of the description, there's a link on how you can sign up. Join our Patreon, you'll get early access to our videos. That's also at the very top of the description. You can make a donation at PayPal right there as well, and subscribe to our channel. Like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.